Hi everyone, I'm Ryan. I'm back in my garage and I'm going to sort out last week's mistake because, yeah, that was just wrong on so many levels. So now I've read the manual and I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get on with it. But, first things first, my garage over the last few days has been used for everything else but, and, yeah. So, I need to sort that. So, let's get it tidied up and then get started on the bike. Okay, so I'm going to correct last week's mistake. I'm going to get this cover off, get that balancer chain adjusted correctly this time. But I'm going to try and shortcut and cheat the process. So firstly I have to remove the cables, I've got to remove the exhaust. That'll take me a moment. Then I'm going to try to see if I can get away with lying the bike on its side, taking the cover off, adjusting the adjustment, putting the cover back on and standing it back up. I don't have another gasket. I don't currently have enough oil to change the oil again. I think this might allow me to get away with it. This is certainly not recommended, but let me try it, see what happens. Worst ways, I'd have to get a new gasket and buy the oil. We'll see. Right, if I take the side cover off. Fuel off. Okay, she's down. Okay, it's laid down. It doesn't appear to be leaking at the moment, so let's give that a minute and then I'll crack the cover. Okay, last couple of bolts. Good. Okay, covers off. Gasket seems intact. Excellent. Yep, that gasket looks good. Undamaged. Let's try and adjust this now then. Okay. Hopefully this time I actually know a little more about what I'm doing. I'll probably still get it wrong. Okay, so that's that and that. Oh, that was close. Should have held on to that bolt, that washer. Okay, so it wants to rotate that way. So we lift this arm off and we let it rotate all the way. So that's just sprung round to wherever it wants to naturally sit. And that wear indicator is just past 12 o'clock. So I think what we now do as we put that back on, wherever it wants to sit neatly, then we tighten these back up. So we put that bolt back on there, washer, and that back on there. Making sure we secure these back up. And that now should have adjusted the slack out, and that little tiny wear indicator is just, it's about 1130 I'd say, which suggests to me that there is more tension and more adjustment available. So as that wears out, if I slacken that bolt off, which I can do through the inspection cover, it will rotate further and take up more tension in the future. But for now, that cover can go back on. Right, clean up a little bit of oil and reinstate it. Okay. Good. And reinstate the bolts. So far so good. Just a little tiny bit of fuel. Other than that, no leakage. Okay, cover's back on. Just got to reconnect the speed, the tacho and the clutch. That will take a moment. No oil leaks so far, so I think that's good. And we'll try and run that engine up in a bit and see how it sounds. But before I get to that, previously I haven't greased this swinging arm, and I know I need to do that. And I also worked out last week that I'm chipped a load of paintwork off of the swinging arm here from the exhaust hanger. So I think what I'm going to do is take the opportunity of removing the swinging arm, sorting out that missing paint, and then reassemble it, greasing it up, and try and adjust the exhaust so that this doesn't happen again. So let me just do that now, and I think, yeah, leave it on the centre stand. I should just be able to unbolt all this, remove the rear wheel, remove the suspension, unbolt the swinging arm, and just lift it straight out. So right, let's do that. Okay, let's see if we can quickly remove this then. So what we got, 14mm rear brake. Quickly slacken that off. Remove that bolt. Also out. I've got a 22mm axle. Don't have a split pin in there yet. I know I should, but obviously we're still in the building phase, not the using phase. That just went off there. And we got what these should undo. There we I just undo these adjustments here, wind that all the way out. That then should allow me to move the wheel forward enough, which should give me enough space to then just ease the chain off the sprocket. Okay, so I think next I'm going to remove the chain guard. Actually, probably the suspension. I'll do the suspension first, then the chain guard. The chain guard can actually stay on there for a minute. It's not in the way of anything. So I think next I need to move up the bike. And I think I need to take this off and slide that out, and then I think the whole swinging arm will just lift off. Okay. What size is that? Oh, 22 again. And it's loose. Does sort of, but it's all falling apart. I'm losing all these washers and the chain's caught up. Of course it is. So yeah, right, let's take the chain guard off and then I think I can lift it out of place. Okay, that's the swinging arm off. There's the damage of the paintwork we need to sort out. So let's give it a clean up, address that first, and then reassemble it all with plenty of grease. Cool. Okay, so I've given this a clean up. We can see the damage just here, which is just gone through the outer black, and there's a couple of scratches here on this bar as well. So I'm just going to touch these up just with some plain black and just give them a bit of protection. There you go, that's just tidied it up nicely. So leave that time to harden off, and then we'll grease her up and go for reconstruction. Okay, to make the reassembly a little easier, I've removed this shock from this side here, so I've got more space for the wheel to be placed through. I've slackened off this bolt so that this has got movement on it, because that gap is what holds the dust seals in, and on the other side I've equally just slackened this bolt off here so that I've got movement on here. So I think that when I put the axle in and put the dust seals on, that should be a lot easier to put them in place, because when I wiggled them out they were tight and then they fell out. So as long as I make sure I put the chain above the axle bolt when I put that in, that should be okay. Right, I'm just waiting for that to dry over there, so I'll try and reconstruct it in an hour or so. Okay, let's see if we can't shorten these excess bolts down a little bit. A lot less protrusion. Whilst I'm waiting for paint to dry, those that you watched my series on painting this tank, this lacquer has continued to just crack, and so it looks really nice. I cut it back, I come back, and then it's just cracked again. So I'm just going to try something because I fear I've got nothing to lose. I'm just going to try a bit of acrylic lacquer, a little tub, and a Q-tip or cotton bud, and I'm going to try and just touch up these cracks and see if I can get some lacquer back in this that will harden. Maybe then I can just rub it back and it will just diminish it, might help a little, I don't know. I don't quite know what this is going to do. This really is me just messing about, but... Right. So there's a little lacquer in a spade in the bottom of a lid. Let's just try applying this. Just see if it fills the crack in. And if it does and hardens, maybe then afterwards it'll be possible for me just to cut it back, because at the moment I'm having to cut down through the depth of the crack to get rid of it, which obviously means the paint's getting thinner and thinner. Maybe if I do this, all I've got to do is then cut back the excess. Who knows? I don't know. I'm giving it a go anyway. Just my crazy ideas. Not seen this done before. No idea if it's going to help or hinder. But either way, it's cracked, so it can't make it a lot worse. Right. We'll let that harden off, see what happens. Okay, time to start reassembly. So let's get some grease. I'll start by just smearing a load of grease inside here. That's just a little bit to begin with, because I know that the tubes are going to push almost all of that out. So what I need next is the inner. Yeah. These have to go inside. And they need a load of grease inside them as well. So that central bolt passes through the middle of these, and these sit within the swinging arm itself. So plenty of grease on these. And they go inside there. That, yeah. And there's almost all the grease I put in coming out again, as expected. Okay, let's do the other side. Proper greasy. Now, we have these covers. We'll smear inside those as well. And one pops on there. Yep. One in here. Okay. I'll start by putting a little more grease on this. That's now located through the sill, the inner bush and the next sill. But the whole swinging arm itself is in the wrong position. That's nearly lined up. Okay. That's through that and that. Now let's concentrate on the other side. That's it. That's it. Got that back on. Okay. There we go. I can just now feel. So that, a whole load of grease is the end of the bolt. Okay. So if I can now just manoeuvre that into place. There we are. There we are. Get that on there. Couple of little taps. And she's through. Okay. Okay, let's see if we can get this rear wheel back in place. Okay. Now we're on the rear axle. So some more grease. More grease on the axle itself. I'd say you never can have too much grease. That's probably actually not true. You probably can. But in my case, I'm going to put plenty of grease on that. And then we're going to try and put this through the rear spacer. And I need to put this spacer in place on the wheel. That side. That's it. Go through there. Now I need to put this spacer in place here. So we'll get the axle bolt to thrust. There we go. His head's just poking through. Spacer on there. Slightly. Now I need this in place. Okay, good. Now the only thing is I've inadvertently converted it to a monoshock, so I better put that back. Okay, shock re-established. Now what I need to do is I need to retighten all this, so all this is loose. And that's loose and this is all loose, so let's tighten these bolts back up and make sure that that's not going to move anywhere. Okay, that's all bolted back up, and the good news is there is now plenty of clearance in here between these bolts and that swinging arm. So that's repainted, bolts are shortened, and that's not going to catch that again. Good, so that's one thing improved. Now, do we dare try and start the bike and see what it sounds like? Yeah, why not? Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if that's made any difference to the sound of the engine. Still sounds loud to me. Don't know. I think it's improved, but it's still making noises it shouldn't make. Look at these exhausts though. I mean, it's only been running for a short while and they seem to be blowing up. Maybe I've got the mixture completely wrong. Is that possible? Is it running far too lean? Don't know. Still think it's a chain somewhere. Someone gave me some tips on how to get some extra adjustment out of the timing, the cam belt chain. So I might have a go at that. Either way, I've had some success because taking that cover off and reinstating it, I'm not losing any oil. That was successful. That was actually easy. That probably took 20 minutes, 25 minutes in total. I've had the swinging arm off, that's all greased up, that's another job ticked off. I've also sorted out the exhaust hitting the swinging arm. So I've got some more stuff done, but I still do not think I've solved the noise in the engine. So there's still a lot more to do. But with that said though, I've got something else in mind. So we've definitely not finished with this yet, and there's still plenty to go. But I've started thinking about what to do next. And as a result of my thoughts, I've begun to accumulate a few things. So, yeah. That's not a lot so far, is it? So, I've got a CB frame. I've got half of the starts of a 400 engine. I've got half of a 200 engine. I've got an old tank. I've got multiple sets of wheels. And I've got boxes of bits. Gearbox, centre stand. Good centre stand if that's of interest. Some electrics and cables and fork bits and carb bits and all sorts of stuff. So there's nowhere near enough to build a bike. But my desire is to try and get a complete engine one way or another. Either building the 400 up, getting the missing parts, getting that a running engine, or sourcing a replacement engine that just needs a bit of work. Putting it in this frame, which is registerable. It's on the DVLA database. I've got sets of wheels. What I want to do is turn this into a scrambler. I want something that I can use on the local tracks and trails around me, just gently. You know, it's never going to take any hard abuse. But I want some modern forks on it, so I want to change the front end for some reasonable front forks. Try and mount a front wheel on that. I want to put off-road tyres on it. I want to try and give it as much ground clearance as I possibly can. At the moment, you know, I've got some old shocks. Maybe get longer rear shocks. Keep it as twin shock. I don't know, find something that's longer to give more travel. Possibly, I've seen others, and I know of a couple of people that are converting these to a monoshock. Don't know if I'm even capable of that. Just try and get something that's a light, stripped back, off-road, trials style bike. That's my idea anyway. Now, I'm going to need a lot of parts. If any of you watching this have got anything you think may be of interest to me, engine wise, forks, rear swinging arm, let me know. Always keen to talk. If I've got something here that you think, that's what I need. I don't know, I've got headlights and bits of engines and 250 pistons and a 400 bottom end. Let me know. Maybe a bit of swapping, bit of negotiation, bit of purchasing. We can both end up with what we want. So that is the start of my next plan. Although it's clearly a long way off being anything other than a pile of bits at the moment. But anyway, let's see what we can do. Well everyone, it's Easter weekend, the weather's particularly nice, so that's all I'm going to do today in the garage. I'm going to go and spend some time with family and enjoy the weather, and I hope you do too. I want to say thank you very much for your help, your support, your comments. Suggestions are always gratefully received. I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll see you all next week. So until then, stay safe.